What's the most fricked up thing your so, or ex-so, has done to you? Thought I was cheating on her. Smashed my iPod Touch with a meat tenderizer and bleached all my clothes and kicked me in the balls. Turns out she was cheating on me. Projection is a crazy thing. Texted me from her mom's phone saying she was in the hospital. She lived 3 hours away. Nobody would answer their phone because they were all in on it. Basically she, and apparently her freaking crazy family, wanted to see if I would drop what I was doing in case of an emergency involving her. We are no longer together. Photoshopped ultrasound pictures, positive pregnancy test pictures etc in order to enhance a lie that I had gotten her pregnant. She would call me 10 times a day crying and screaming at me with very graphic and very believable details. It gets way worse than that, but that paints a pretty clear picture. I didn't dodge a bullet there. I evaded a machine gun. She wasn't pregnant at all, and I have to wonder what the heck her endgame was. I'll make him think I'm pregnant and then. My ex completely cut off contact with me out of nowhere 2 years ago. We were together for 2 years. Things were going as great as ever, and then in mid-August, one night after I dropped her off at her house, I never heard from her again. I called her, texted her, dropped by her house multiple times. Her roommates would always say she wasn't there, asked her friends, etc. Finally gave up after a month of psychological torment, wondering what in the frick I could have possibly done to deserve this. It screwed me up pretty bad for a while. I was an emotional wreck for pretty much all of 2014. It had been the same feeling as if she would have died, because that's exactly what it seemed and felt like. I think we dated the same girl. Throwaway, but whatever. I've got 2 from the same ex-wife of whom I have 2 children with. 1. After we separated, but not divorced, she drove halfway across the country to bone my then best friend. Was her friend too. Needless to say, that tipped the scales as to the direction of our relationship, with me and her and me and my best friend. 2. About 8 months ago, I got served court paperwork in which she was asking the court for full physical custody of my kids. We have 1/2 legal and 1/2 physical now. And to move the kids across the country to follow her new military husband at his new duty station. Oh, and she wanted child support. We just ended the court last week. The court granted me full physical custody of my kids. She gets summer and 1/2 of winter breaks, and ordered her to pay child support. Feels good, man. Moved another guy into my house while I was overseas. Made my kids call him dad. Tried to back over me with the van while home on leave and trying to get the groceries out, just to mention a few. Moved a man into our apartment when I was deployed overseas. Let him drive my car, 6-speed, which he couldn't drive. Also changed the locks on the door so when I got home from deployment early I couldn't even get in. Yeah, I think that about sums it up. Cheated on me, in our bed, with a new friend I made that seemed like a really good friend, while I was asleep downstairs. 3 times, but you know what was the worst? The 4th time, which still happened before I found out about any of it. But I made sushi for us. A giant plate of it, and she brought half of it over to his place to have a second date with him after our dinner. Claimed she made it. You know how hard it is to make sushi? It's so much work. Anyway, glad that's over. Clean divorce at least. Had too much evidence. Told me his ex-girlfriend had just returned from her semester abroad and they'd met up and he had feelings. So it was probably best to end things so he could see if they still had something. 2 weeks later he called and said his ex had started dating someone else while abroad, so obviously they weren't getting back together. And would I want to go to a movie with him that night? Come on, baby. I mean, you were my second choice, but out of 3 billion females on the planet you came in second place. You're the second greatest in the entire world to me, baby. Take me back. I need you. Slightly less than my ex, but slightly more than most. Many years ago, I gave birth to an encephalitic stillborn. I had my local silversmith make a custom-made solid silver urn for her ashes. Fast forward maybe 5-ish years. The abusive man I was with took the urn, flushed the ashes down the toilet, and pawned the urn. The urn cost me about $1,800. He got $50 for it. That's one of the most fricked up things I've heard. I'm sorry he did that. About 4 years ago, after a month of being broken up, he showed up at my place absolutely wasted in the middle of the night and thought that because the light in my room was on I must be hooking up with someone. I was up late studying for a midterm. Full stop. Luckily my friend who lived across the street was still up and she came over when I asked her to. He berated me and then when he finally turned to leave, he slammed my door so hard that he pulled it through the frame a bit, and then he slammed it on the ground and jumped all over it, smashing it to bits. Then he ran back in my room, hoisted my 36-inch TV above his head and smashed it on the ground. Then one of my male roommates finally woke up and chased him out of the house. Someone across the street had seen the situation unfold through my window and called the cops, but he was already gone. But 3 nights later, I'm at a friend's house around midnight or so, when my neighbor calls me. He's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm sitting with James and a cop, and he's arrested because they caught him smashing the windshield of your car, and they want to know if you want to press charges. My car was parked on the street, so I'm guessing he went looking for it, and he was wasted again. So I was like, well, frick, yay. So I went ahead and pressed charges. He had to pay me back for everything and do mandatory therapy and whatnot after spending a night in jail, and we haven't spoken since. Last time I ever fricked with crazy. Good for you for pressing charges. Too often people get away with this crap. Didn't tell me she had an STD because she thought I wouldn't want to be with her if I knew. Luckily I didn't get it, but it just shows you how important it is to have your partner tested. She served me with divorce papers while I was taking a nap due to being sick from my chemotherapy. Needless to say we are no longer married. So chemo even works for external corrupted cellular growth. Better off with a pure functioning body and life. Came to my house before school, senior year of high school, with her wrists bleeding. She told me I did that to her, then proceeded to wipe blood all over my car. I noped the frick right out of that situation. Well, after breaking up, he broke into my apartment while I was out on a date. He then hid in my bedroom closet and waited for me to come home. Date went well. I brought the guy back to my place. X heard more than he wanted. He only revealed himself after my date left. He was yelling. I just grabbed my phone to call the cops. Thankfully he left on his own. He was literally hiding in my closet for hours. The older I get, the creepier that whole situation seems. I feel like it's a really good thing you brought someone home with you that night. Jesus. Cheated on me with someone at our home while I was there in a different room. It was a bold move, Cotton, but it sure didn't pay off cause I kicked her butt out right then and there. Been together for 6 years. Friends. Best friends. Lovers. I pop the question. She says number. We decide it's time to pack up and go separate ways. Few months later I get a job offer from a different country for a wonderful job opportunity. I say yes. Quit my current job. Get all excited, start packing and stuff. She calls the night before my flight and says let's get married. I cancel the flight. Tell the job people sorry I can't take the job. Week later she refuses to go ahead with any marriage plans. I'm like WTF. She's like I just don't want to lose you. I thought if I say yes, you'd stay. And then follows the longest year of my life trying to find a decent job and let go of the hurt and anger. That is so freaking selfish. After 18 years together, he left me 2 weeks before Christmas for a younger woman. He took every computers that we had in the house with him, even the iPad, and took our only car. I had to do Christmas shopping alone, heartbroken and on foot during the horrible Canadian weather. It was the worst weeks of my life and the worst Christmas. I am so sorry. That's heartbreaking. Interwebs hugs. On top of the daily belittling and constant threat of breakups, my ex made me think I was this retarded abusive oaf while she was actually the master abusive manipulator the whole time. Threatened to send all the nudes I'd ever sent him to my father. When I asked him why he would do such a crappy thing, his response was, I don't know. What the frick? He did lots of crappy things though. Cheated on me, used drugs behind my back, lots of screaming and horrible insults when he was angry. So that was fun. But the sending nudes to my dad threat was, in my opinion, a whole new level of crappy. Like, that's not just doing something to me, that's doing something to my father. who has nothing to do with our relationship. He got another girl pregnant and asked me if I would raise the child. Apparently he asked her if I could raise the kid and she said it was okay. When I refused, he told me it was my fault and I made him cheat on me. He's a winner alright. Her being a great deal shorter than me, when she'd get angry, she'd headbutt me as hard as possible in the chest trying to kill me by stopping my heart. Sued me for ownership of my dog that I purchased after we broke up. People just don't want it to be true. She went to her brother's wedding in Cali and when she returned she treated me like crap. Then I heard her daughter talking and she was left in the hotel room while her mom was fricking one of her brother's friends she met at the reception. I learned all this 2 years after it happened when I caught her fricking a coworker. So 15 years down the drain. Been 3 years since then and I am still single. Guess like the song from the Pantera I'm broken. At least you have good taste in music. You'll find Mrs. Headbanger soon. I caught my ex going behind my back to FCK just about every other girl in town including H, and buying coke to feed his addiction. That I didn't know about, with my money. All this while he said he was at work. I confronted him with the evidence, which he denied and spent a lot of time gaslighting me about, but I had proof, and we broke up. I hadn't seen him for a few days, but I found out why when a policeman showed up at my door. He had gone to the police and told them that he didn't know me at all, and that I had been stalking him for 6 months. In fact he had been mostly living with me and mooching off me for 3 years up until the week before this, lying to my face, driving away all my friends, and abusing me in every way. Unfortunately I had deleted every sign of him in my life when breaking up, so I had no evidence to support my defense. His evidence was a video he had taken of me unaware when I came to his work, and asked him to come out into the hallway to talk to me about why he had disappeared for days and wasn't answering his phone. That video and his other outlandish claims were enough to have me arrested and to grant him a restraining order. I spent a day in jail, in Brooklyn, which was nightmarish this after never having been in legal trouble in my life. My case was dropped because it was a ridiculous accusation, but it was very traumatic in the meantime. I have since realized he is a true sociopath. That was 3 years ago and I have not talked to him since, nor do I ever want to again. I never understand why people go to such ridiculous lengths to try and ruin people. Sorry you had to go through that. Was cheating on me with a direct subordinate from our mutual workplace, then blamed me when it got out and ruined his career and reputation. Stopped cheating, cut himself, locked himself in a dark room for days while texting me 24/7, accusing me of not caring, and all in all made me feel responsible whenever he said he'll kill himself just to keep me around. Also, stalked me for half a year after the breakup and threatened me once he found out about the new boyfriend. Lied about the sort of recreational drugs she was into and then fricked another guy in a coke-fueled haze. Stayed with her for almost a year longer. I was not a smart kid. Hey, I think we dated the same girl. Slept with 3 guys in one night while I was at home taking care of our son. She was away for training in the Navy. There was much more but this was the worst. We were married. Cheated and I caught her when my daughter was sending me emoji texts. She's 5. She accidentally pasted in my wife's last text message to her boyfriend. It said this: "It's a holiday weekend and we are dead tomorrow. I will be out around 1. You want to go do something other than frick? Something outside." I found out she has been fricking around with him since October of last year before I retired from the Navy. I moved to another state in February to work as I couldn't find any work around where we lived. She says she has stopped with him, but how the heck do I know? Dude, never forgive a cheater. If you learn nothing from life it's this: no human being is irreplaceable. There are 7 billion of us. Find one just like her minus the cheating part. Started dating a guy while we were married and made plans to move out with him. Got 5 credit cards in my name and bought furniture and housewares with them for their new place. I found out about the credit cards after she left me. She hadn't made any payments and they were all maxed out and overdue. It took 10 years to pay them off. Convinced me to give up my dream job as student loan repayment to move 3 hours away with her to her hometown, only to leave me 3 months later saying she wasn't in love with me and hadn't been for the last 1.5 years. We are now divorced. Only thing really. Cheated. Said they needed a break to deal with guilt. Went out that night, got drunk and banged a couple more guys. And then told me it was all my fault because I treated her like a child. Which, it's so emotionally mature to deal with a mistake by lying, getting wasted, and doing it again, instead of, I don't know, talking and not hanging up on your so. Stole my mother's credit cards and would use them frequently. We caught on when we kept cancelling the cards and it kept happening, also kept happening at the same places. Would use my car while I was sleeping to hang out with girls. Would berate me constantly and accuse me of talking to guys because he was the one who wasn't being loyal. Punched my air conditioning vents in my car and broke it, punching my doors and denting them. Got in an argument at the beach, so I walked away and was peacefully tanning by myself to be surprised with him pouring freezing cold water on me. Stole my Xbox One out of my house and smashed it. I think this guy was on drugs to be honest, but he of course always denied it. Suru happy to be done with him. It was the nastiest breakup ever and he physically wouldn't let me break up with him no matter how many times I've tried. Have a restraining order. Gotten him arrested? Nothing. I put cameras up at my house which finally got him to stop. It's only been 5 months since we broke up, so let's hope he stays gone for good. Woke up one day as normal. Had amazing sex in the bed and then in the shower. Great breakfast of eggs and toast and coffee. Then I went to work and came home to find all the locks changed and she was yelling out the window, "Leave or I'm calling the cops." I called the cops. They arrived. I told them the situation. My girlfriend has changed the locks on the house that I was renting. They assure me all is well and go in to talk with her. 10 minutes later they come out and tell me you need to leave. Immediately. What, sir? You need to leave immediately. I live here. Where am I supposed to go? All my stuff is in my home. That's not our concern, but you need to leave here immediately. So I left. Stayed at friend's place for a week. Got off the lease there and put her on it and moved into another apartment and had to buy all new stuff. Fun times. A bit late, but I think it's worth sharing. Ex-girlfriend's best friend is getting married into a rather wealthy family. The bride-to-be was from a rather poor family and had a schizophrenic kid for a brother. Being a rather high-end wedding, there was an open bar with and tons of food at the reception afterwards. The kid gets stupid wasted and picks a fight with the entire family of the groom. The cops show up and hold him at taser point while the bride and my girlfriend plead for me to intervene. I talk down the drunk lunatic and persuade the cops to let me take him home. They agree and I load him and 2 of his junkie friends that were freeloading the reception into my car and book it. Taking them home, I turn around to find they are passing a crack pipe amongst themselves getting high. After I drop them off, I head home to pass out from my misadventure. I wake up at about 4 to the girlfriend stumbling and very drunk. She had stayed at the reception and enjoyed the evening. As she lays down next to me, the rank odor of a sex and CM cocktail on her. With little prodding she breaks down and admits that after I left she fricked the groom's brother. Played dumb for a week while I slowly moved out my stuff and then cut it off. TLDR. Saved the wedding so my girlfriend could frick. Driving home from dinner and get into an argument. I stop answering her and she gets frustrated and proceeds to throw her leftovers in my face. Like the entire box. She didn't take out the food and throw it at me. I'm just driving and a whole styrofoam box with a half-eaten steak in it nails me in the temple. Food goes everywhere, but I keep my cool and drop her off. Steak City B. He told me yesterday he no longer loved me. My whole family lives multiple states away. I have nothing here. We're working on it, but if things don't work out I just don't know. His sisters are my best friends. I just don't know what I'm going to do. Told me yesterday he no longer loved me, we're working on it. Get out now. She decided to opt out of our 6-month trip around the world. 2 weeks before we were leaving, I met some bloke online. Met him once and we traveled together instead for the whole duration. Pick up people as we went along. Best time of my life. Frick her. Once, my boyfriend, I'm a girl, for your information, hit on my older brother in front of me. It wasn't until much later that they both came out of the closet. She ordered a pizza with pineapple on it. Apparently she's into that kind of stuff. Lived with her for years not knowing. Pineapple on pizza is freaking delicious. She posted naked pictures of me, On Tumblr, lucky for me, my face wasn't very visible and I was at peak physical shape. I got a lot of notes and awesome comments which built up my confidence. Jokes on her, they were submitted to a gay Tumblr blog and a friend saw them and forwarded the link to me. My girlfriend picked up my cat and pointed its butt at me like a gun while declaring I know how to use this thing. The problem arose when she started acting like she was shooting me and squeezing my cat. That then fired the entirety of its bowels directly into my face and open mouth. Groomed me from age 15 until I was legal, emotionally abused, cheated on me for almost a year before people finally started asking him uncomfortable questions. Ghosted me and insisted I was insane and making it all up before marrying the girl he cheated on me with. Big age gaps are a red flag. People, if your so is 10 years older than you and you're in high school, they don't like you because you're so mature. They like you because you're easy to manipulate and abuse. Got pregnant. Carried on drinking and smoking, so I went crazy and told her she needed to stop for the sake of the baby. 2 weeks later, after quitting all the booze and cigarettes, she rang me at work and said she had miscarried. I left work 30 minutes later and rang her and said I was on the way to the hospital. She said she wasn't in the hospital. I said, where did you miscarry then? She said the bathroom. Alarm bells should have really gone off then. I went home and tried to comfort her. She was just interested in getting drunk. 2 months later I noticed the baby bump. There was no miscarriage. Luckily my son was born healthy and I've had full custody of him for the last 5 years now. He's 8 and he calls my so mum. She cheated on me with a transfer student one school year. I, being the idiot I am, gave her another chance. Following school year, she cheated, again, with a guy in her Japanese class. She was a total C. Couple of months down the road, same school year, she decides to bring some mace and a pocket knife to school because she thought one of her friends GF was gonna kick her butt. I found out and ratted her out to the vice principal. She was expelled from the school for having a weapon and forced to finish high school at an alternative school for delinquents. Revenge is sweet. This sounds like stuff straight out of an anime. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.